thought this was going to be British. I really thought this was going to be British. It seemed British. The write-up seemed British, and I thought, oh, it's going to be British. It's a cute little British movie with charming little British old people. And yeah, it's going to be delightful. What a delightful little romp this is going to be, because it's British. It's not British. This is not British. It seems like it should be British. It led me to believe it was British. If there is one lesson to be learned from this experience, it is simply this: watch the trailer. Watch the trailer. Yes, sometimes the trailers can be misleading, but other times they can let you know things like it's not British. And I know I shouldn't be, so disheartened that it's not British, but I feel like if it were British, then it might have made it watchable. Because the Brits have charm. Especially older British actors have charm. They, so much charm. That's why I was looking forward to this. That's why I thought, oh, yay, British, charm. Not British, no charm. This film is nigh unwatchable, folks. Oh my God. I nearly rage quit. That's one of the bad things about being able to see a lot of these things on in-demand or on YouTube, is that you're much more inclined to go, okay, I'm done here, click. Whereas if I went and saw it in the movie theater, I probably would have, sat through the whole thing. I've only left a movie twice in my life. Okay. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this thing, because the reason I didn't rage quit, the reason I kept going, is because this is the kind of film that makes being a low-rated YouTube film critic entertaining, because there is just so much to rip apart about this movie that I have to let the people know about this. I've got to let them know. And what boggles my mind is when looking it up on IMDb, you saw that the star rating is like in the 9s. It's like 9 point something out of 10. Now, I don't trust star ratings. I don't look at Rotten Tomatoes. I don't trust any of that shit. But that just boggled my mind, because it's like, how did this get? I can only assume members of the cast and crew did it. I can only assume that. Because I think that's the first thing we have to understand. This is clearly a passion project. This is clearly somebody's baby, and it's somebody's baby by the fact that it is written, directed, and starring the same person, a gentleman by the name of David Keith. So you can tell this was his baby. And I want to state right off the bat that I have great respect for that. I really, really do. Despite the comments I am about to make, I have great respect for an artist or a creative personality who truly loves a work that they have created and will go to the lengths to make it a reality, to see it through. That takes gumption, it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of love. I do see the love in this movie. I truly do. It is lovingly created. And I think that is very important. I want to stress that. I remember the very first play I ever got directed. I think I've talked about this on this channel before. The very first play I directed, myself and the cast, we spent an entire summer doing that show, and we poured everything we had into it. And that critic came, and she cut our asses up. My ass, specifically. I think I still have scars on my ass from that. So, I want to make it clear that despite the fact I am about to rip into this film like a lion on a freshly downed gazelle, I want to make it clear that I have a great respect for the love, the creativity, the gumption that went into this film, because clearly it's a labor of love. So, I want to say that I respect the creative drive to do it. That being said, And that being true, you cannot escape the fact that this is an awful movie. It is just so bad, and so bad on a variety of levels. So let's talk about this. So what is this movie about? Well, it's about this small town somewhere, some fishing village, where they have the only real employer. It's the typical town. A small town is dying. Everyone's sad, and everyone's given up on living. You know, the type of story. And their only real moneymaker is some chemical plant that makes an ingredient for dog shampoo, but has all these dangerous runoffs. Well, a gentleman from the Environmental Protection Agency comes and says, we're going to replace one of those chemicals with this new one, PP 238 or something like that. I forget the number. But it has this delightfully comical and farcical side effect, the kind you don't really read about when drug companies are giving you the rundown of all the possible side effects you could get, and that it's going to increase libido. So all the people drinking the water of this town are now supposedly going to have increased libidos, which of course at first terrifies the older denizens of the town. The town is made up mostly of older people, and definitely sets the really, really Puritan, stick-up-his-ass sheriff, as played by our writer-director, David Keith, off on a tear as the townspeople begin to succumb to the side effects. And of course, as they succumb, they begin to rediscover life, and they rediscover new passions and old passions, and they're ready to move on and become happy, and all of this, that, and the other thing. It's your typical, old people get their groove back / town brought back to life kind of thing. And that's not a bad premise for a play or a movie. I think of films like The Majestic, or musicals like The Spitfire Grill, which is based on a movie, but they are so different from each other, they might as well be two different works. So it's not a bad concept. It really isn't. And there are a lot of times when I think that if this had been in the hands of, forgive me, a better director, a better writer, and some better actors, maybe this could have been salvaged into something charming. As it happens, all of the faults of this film lay clearly at these three elements' feet, which I guess is not saying much, because you could say that about every movie or play, really. Let's try to take them in. Let's try to take them in turns. So let's first talk about the acting, which is just, the cast is made up primarily of day players, character actors, people whose IMDb page is fairly sparse, and character names like the detective, guy in bar, things of that nature. These are not your A-listers. And again, I've got no problem with that. I don't think you need A-listers to make a movie. I think sometimes a group of lesser-known actors can bring a sense of urgency and much more pathos, because it means more to them. A-list talent, hire, name actors, they do this all the time, and so therefore it's just another day at the office. But for folks like this, who are, not guaranteed that next film role, you can tell this was something that was very personal to them, and they were really, really gonna give it their all. So again, a lot of respect. And also, again, you don't need big name talent, or even, in some cases, you don't need real talent to even do it. Let's compare it to one of my favorite movies, Clerks, the Kevin Smith film. That had non-actors in it, and you can't, no matter how much I love that film, you can't look at that movie and say that, half of those lines are delivered with any kind of naturalistic flow. So you don't necessarily need trained actors or even good, name actors. Sometimes you just need people who have a passion for the project and can drive it forward. The problem is that these people are clearly, to my eye, much more comfortable with the stage than they are with film. I have no evidence of this, but if I had to guess, I would imagine that a lot of these folks were original cast members of the original stage production of this, or that is where they've gotten most of their work, from stage performances. The reason I say that is because their performances, some of these performances are so over the fucking top and so overblown that it makes any chance the film has at being sensitive or letting us have an emotional connection with the characters, that is blown out the window by these over-the-top performances. And the reason I say that is because there are certain moments in this where there actually is a moment that lands, or a joke that really does work, or something to that effect. And I think it is possible that these actors could have pulled this movie off, but they needed to restrain their more latent theatrical tendencies. And I don't say theatrical in a bad way. I'm a theatrical person. My love is the theater more than the film. But the problem is that there is a different breed of acting on stage than there is in a movie. You know, theatrical acting is much bigger, and, you know, it has to be because you're in a larger space. And the audience is right there with you. And for film, you've got to tone that down a little bit and make it a little bit more, you know, naturalistic. And I don't think these folks did that. And the other part of the problem with that is that we're not directed to. This movie, again, I have no room to talk. No fucking room to talk. And I can admit that right up here on the surface. I just directed a movie. You know, check out Return of the Blue Ghost on YouTube, on this YouTube channel. Go ahead, do it. Anyway, I just directed a movie, but I hope I am humble enough to say I think it came out better than it had any right to, but I don't chalk that up to my brilliance as a film director. I know I'm a stage director, and I filmed things as they needed to be filmed to hide things or whatever. And I think it is just very clear our director is not a film director. The directing, the camera setups and everything are fine. It's the acting directing. It is so off. It is just so off, and he needed to pull these actors back a little bit. And, you know, and get them to be a little bit more naturalistic. I think if he had done that, this might have been a salvageable film. But the other big problem with this movie, the biggest problem, and this is the one that really nips me in the bud. Everything else about this I can be somewhat forgiving about, as I have been. You know, theater actors trying to do screen work. Okay, I get it. You're a first-time director. This is literally the only thing on his directing filmography. Okay, you know what? You're learning on the job. Nobody's perfect the first time out, not, you know, except Orson Welles, but, you know, fuck it, none of us are Orson Welles. But the thing I cannot stomach, the thing I cannot forgive, and the thing that I cannot, you know, cannot give any praise to is the writing. The writing of this thing is just fuck. All right, I'm a playwright, and I'm not going to delude myself and say that I'm a great playwright, but I think I'm a pretty good playwright. And watching this movie and the writing of it, it offended me on a personal level that this bad of writing was allowed to happen. The things that happen in this movie, the writing issues in this movie, are fucking playwriting 101. This is shit that you should not do, and this is shit that any good playwriting teacher would breed out of you as quickly as humanly possible. There is just so much. Okay, a couple of quick examples. Exposition, backstory, giving us information on the characters. This is some of the most blatant, obvious, and unnatural backstory and exposition dumps I've ever heard. Well, you know, it's really sad that ever since her parents died, she's had to raise Stevie on her own. You know, it just, and so blatant, like they're winking at the audience going, backstory, backstory, backstory. I should also point out that it's too much exposition, at the same time, not fucking enough, because they don't explain to us in this rather terrible bit of backstory that Stevie is the girl's brother, not her son. You know, it's like the one place they kind of needed a little overwriting to give us all the information, it skips on, and for half the film, I thought that was her kid. But there you go. It is a clear indication of tell, don't show. This script has to tell us everything. When a scene happens, okay, there are a couple of cute scenes in this that either fall apart because the writing fucks it over or because the acting fucks it over. There's a cute scene after the mayor and the town gossip hook up where they both go to confession and they're in either side of the confession booth and the priest is kind of going back and forth. And it's your typical, you're not getting all of the information kind of thing. But it's ruined by, and it's actually a funny scene, but it's ruined by the fact that, number one, the acting, once again, is so over the top, it doesn't feel natural. And number two, the phrasing that they are using are phrasing that no human being would make. So, for instance, the mayor's wife left him because she was having an affair with a rock band called The Lost Children. Right? So she was having an affair with the rock band called The Lost Children. The mayor goes to the confessional and he says, yeah, my wife left me because she was having an affair with the Lost Children. Not the rock band, The Lost Children, The Lost Children, which of course the priest interprets as she was having an affair with lost kids and that her husband had set it up and was taking pictures and got them their little outfits. This is a mistake that no one would fucking make, and therefore it kills the joke. The other bad part of the writing is when something funny actually does happen, and then the writing has to double back and explain what we have just seen. There's a scene where the mayor and his gossip girlfriend now have decided they're going to throw an orgy. You know, because, of course, isn't that hysterical? People who have never been to an orgy, who have no idea what an orgy is, are going to throw an orgy. And the sheriff ends up busting it, and it's all these people with just old Halloween masks and, you know, paper bags on their head kind of thing. That does not need explanation. We get it. These are, you know, older people. They've heard, they understand the concept of an orgy. Maybe they went and watched Eyes Wide Shut. You know, they don't understand, and they're doing the best they can. Visually, the joke sells. We don't need to be informed of it. The very next scene, they're in there explaining why everybody was wearing Halloween masks or paper bags on their head. It's like, the joke doesn't need to be fucking explained. All right? And the writing just gets worse and worse and worse with cliches and things in it that are just out of date. So one of the characters, when they first have the town meeting to tell them about the chemical in the water, is of course this guy who stands up and goes, I hope that doesn't make people go gay. Ew, gay people. I hate gays. And of course, surprise, surprise, to the surprise of no one, he turns out to be gay. Fucking shocker. Brilliant writing there. You know, again, I love Kevin Smith, and some of his work is very tone deaf, but it was the way things were done in the 90s. All right. All of his bad gay jokes, that was commonplace in the 90s. Not saying it was right, saying it was the time and place in which it was written. This was fucking made in 2019. You seriously thought that was a fucking edgy or, you know, original joke that the guy who hates gays was going to turn out to be gay? And here's the really funny part. When a director / writer puts themselves in their movie or writes a part for themselves, what normally happens is they give their character either the best fucking role in the movie, see
Ben Affleck for Argo or Matt Damon for Good Will Hunting, or they give themselves the smallest role to do kind of a cute cameo, see Kevin Smith in, the original View Askew movies. This guy gives himself the worst fucking character. Like the character who's supposed to be the audience POV character and supposed to be the one who goes through an arc and who we are supposed to commit to. And he is just the worst fucking human being. Like, okay, I get it that at first he is having a hard time because he's trying to go around and stop people from having sex in public. Okay, I can understand that. He's trying to stop the priest from riding his bike naked through the town where small children might see it. Okay, I get that. But then he starts getting mad that people are dating or, that they're having fun or going dancing. He acts like that is like, is this the town from fucking Footloose? What the hell is your problem, buddy? And he rips into this girl who has a crush on him and who he has a crush on. Of course, she's quirky and awkward and he's stiff as a board, kind of thing. He rips into her and it's just a fucking asshole. I will appreciate that at least she stands up and says to him, you're a fucking awful person. You're terrible and I don't like you. And of course they get together in the end. But this guy gets more and more Puritan as the film goes on. And becomes more and more unlikable, and they try to give him some sympathetic backstory. It doesn't fly. It's overwritten and underwritten at the same time. It's so amateurish. Though the playwriting / script writing things are the issues I have the most problem with, because that's the shit that's easiest to fix if you had any sense of, basic writing credos. But nope. So, I feel like if this had a more experienced director, maybe some better actors, and a fucking overhaul on the script, there is something to be mined here, and there is a decent enough story and characters to make a charming movie out of. But Jesus, this thing is, I almost stopped watching it 3 times and just had to power through, because no, this is the kind of movie you need to review. Everybody knows Doctor Strange is going to be a good film, but people need to be made aware of this shit, and people need to be made aware of it so they don't make the same fucking mistakes. For God's sakes, give your script a second run through. Like, really? Oh, God. Yeah, I cannot with this movie. I just can't. So, this is one of those films that I like to watch, because these could be the hidden gems. These could be the films that no one else sees, no one else reviews, and that I feel like I'm doing something, maybe not a lot, but I'm doing something to bring these films into the light of day. And other times these films have been buried and just kind of flit around and die, and there's a good fucking reason. So that is the case with this film. So let's wrap this up. So final grade for this thing. I'm going a D- on this. And the only reason it's not going full-blown F is because, again, I have deep respect and deep sympathy for people who believe in a project, believe in it, and are giving it everything they got. I believe acting-wise, the actors are doing the best job they can. I believe directing-wise, the director did the best job he could. Writing-wise, it's a fucking nightmare, but I can respect the fact that you love a script that you wrote and you believe in it and you want to see it through. So the goodwill that I have for things of that, as Tyrion says, I have a great affection for crippled bastards and broken things. I have deep sympathy and deep affection for films like this and filmmakers like this, but the simple fact of the matter is, when all is said and done, the end product is not very good. So there you have it. So thank you for joining me thank you for listening to this. Sorry about the sun glare. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.